Ladies and gentlemen, this is the legendary John Saxon, the man that my mom says, tell him he was a very good-looking actor. And still is, so she says that.
Well, I'm an actor now, still. Yes, okay.
Mr. Saxon, tell my viewers about God's Ears and how you became involved with Michael Wolff's work. So.
I met Michael Wolff through a mutual friend, and it was about maybe 4 years ago, maybe a little bit more even. And he was interested. He wanted to talk to me about what did I think about what films did
liberal
I like,
anchor of MSNBC was candidate, suspended.
You know, was really open to tell him everything I felt he wanted to know. In the end, he said, well, you know, I'm writing some stuff and things like that, and when I'm ready, I'll send you. So sometime later, I mean, at least a year later, maybe more, I got a call from him, and he said, I can send you the script. Would you read it and let me know if you can play a part in it? And he said, there isn't a lot of money. I said, well, just send me the script and see what it is. I read it. I read it on a Wednesday, and it was about autism. And he was playing. He had done, he had written the script, he was directing it, and it was in its last 3 days. And I jumped in. I jumped in because I thought it was really something important, and that it's even growing in importance now about
absolutely.
What this is. I can go into this because I was really, you know, there was an article in the Atlantic magazine earlier this year, written by a woman. What the text was that she was an executive in a company, and she was saying there's no reason why women have to breastfeed children. I mean, it's very difficult, and you can't do anything if you have to do this and that. So why not they just drink bottled stuff? Okay. Well, that's not what I think is happened and what is happening, and which means with autism, to me, that there is a break, a mental, emotional break early in infancy, which I even feel myself in a way. When I wake up at night after having slept 3 hours and I don't know why I'm awake, and I just lay there for another 2 hours or something until I fall asleep.
Happened to me last night.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I mean, I mention this because I think that's what, you know, I mean, people talk about autism, and recently there have been ideas that it had to do with some kinds of vaccination and stuff like that. I think they're missing the emotional context in this situation. So happens about 1982 or 3 or 4 or something like that. There was, like, I think statistically a couple of cases of autism around only. But at the same time, there was the 2 working family, the husband and wife. And the story I tell you is related to that because, well, all the women that I knew were professional, and they had a baby that they had a maid for. I did too. I mean, I have a son who I actually heard his cries in the night, you know, and I never forgot them. I never forgot them. It was, well, his mother was not really much in caring about breastfeeding, and the story was, well, he doesn't have the proper formula. Yeah, well, the formula meant that they were going to put in something. So then we're going to another formula. You had that formula?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can go back about my own life in this. My mother, I was the first child. Okay.
How big's your family?
When do you mean?
Well, how big the family? You say first child.
Well, it was my father and my mother, but I lived in Brooklyn in an apartment building that my grandfather owned, and I much later heard, that my grandfather would knock on the door and want to go in and see that my mother was breastfeeding me. And that bothered her a great deal to him, to be there. But the idea, the meaning that it had for him, is, I think, the meaning that it has for children in this case, like my son, who cried at night. Why? Oh, they haven't given him the right formula yet.
Oh,
That ain't the case.
oh my God.
All right, so that's why I took to this movie very seriously. Well, first time I saw it, I thought it was terrific. It was made in 10 days. And
10 days?
10 days.
That's amazing.
It is. And how he did it, I don't know. He sent a note to me recently, because he was in Bulgaria working for a film, about how much he wanted to be here, and because he had shot much of the film here in San Francisco, and the environments, I think maybe in Oakland.
Yeah, I suppose you said in Oakland.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I have a real investment in this movie, personally, and it's meaning for me, and I think I've mentioned that it started out with little festivals, and I was given a prize of a supporting actor. And then,
Congratulations.
Yeah, and then in Las Vegas, a similar situation. They brought me there, and I was given a prize. I don't remember if it was for being best supporting actor or just actor, something like that. Hawaii. Was another festival like that, and it was always the film always won in these festivals, and it kept going. And the more that I
what is it about the film that? Because when my friend told me about it, he said, and it's going to screen tonight at the New Media Film Festival. He said, "Oh, it's about this fellow who's making fun of an autistic kid who gets in the ring with him, and you play the person that says, 'Hey, wait a minute.'" And when he told me that little bit, I thought, I got it. I thought, yes, knock him out.
I played the owner of a former boxer who owned a gym. And in this gym, there was this guy who cleaned the floor, the mat, and everything else, and something broke. He would say, I'll fix it for you, Mr. Such and such and such. And I said, don't worry about it. And one night in the story, I'm all alone in this gym, and I'm looking at a picture of a woman, apparently, that somehow was a bad scene, or not a bad scene, but about which this character's crying. He missed something. He did the wrong thing with the woman, or she with him, or something like
his
that.
wife, or
something like that. But
yeah.
it's not. Except that I turn around and I see that this kid in the back is hitting the back, and I said, "What are you doing?" And I realized that he wants to box. And he's autistic, and he talks, and waves his head and so on, like many do. And so I said, "Okay, whenever you have a chance, I'll help you, train you, something like that." And eventually, he goes into the ring with a guy who's a pro. And I said, "What are you doing? This is silly." Anyway, he fights. But there's much more to that. He meets a woman, and she is a kind of a pole dancer or something like that, but she's attracted to him, and he to her. And this is he says, "I think I have a date with her." I said, "Go for it, go for it." Anyway, that story.
So you encourage him. You're like his enabler to be better than he thinks he is.
Absolutely,
right? It's
absolutely,
What I have to say this because you're pop culture royalty, and I know you wince when I say that.
Well,
both on and off camera. It's like, but I mean, look, you Enter the Dragon.
Yeah,
is the film that most people I talk to associate you with.
I agree.
And I interviewed Jim Kelly. I have to ask you, what do you remember? Because you said you play. You play another physical role in a sense in The God's Ear, in that you're playing a former boxer.
Yeah, but old. In 1973 when Enter the Dragon was made, I was 30 something. I forget, 37, 38.
Hey, you look that old.
Yeah, I didn't know, but anyway.
Good.
But I thought the film was good. I had done some karate for several years, and some judo before that, and stuff like that. And I think I got the role because Bruce Lee saw me with a group of the school that I was doing karate with at UCLA doing a demonstration. And I think that's the case. I heard afterwards that he said, yeah, I want him, you know. Maybe because I was just tall enough not to bother him, you know, and not further. I got, the first day I met him, I had my son and my wife and my son, who was 2 years old at the time. We arrived in Hong Kong. We were in a hotel. I got a message that he'd like to ask me to come over and see him. And he said that it's right around the corner. So I took a taxi. I walked in, and we shook hands. And I looked around. He had a gym in his house.
Wow.
And much of what he had in his house, I had in my garage. The same
Oh,
thing.
wow, yeah.
So,
So
we started talking
right.
about, wow, you tried it. Oh, try this. Then the other thing, and he was talking about, but really
What was he like as a person?
Yeah, all right, here's what was behind what was going on. He was growing a whole group of people in Hollywood, actors, big actors, to training them and stuff like that. So what he was able to do became something that some agents or producers were able to see, and so he did a couple of roles. He did a role in the Green Hornet.
Yeah. Yep.
And he
played
did
Kato.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he did a thing where he kicked a chandelier with.
Yeah, that's right. That was a famous scene. That was amazing.
Scene.
Right.
So I had only seen him before in these matters, but what I knew and what had happened was he was supposed to do this series, the television series Kung Fu.
Right. Yeah.
And it was written for him. But what happened was that ABC, in their grand wisdom, said, "What are we doing? I mean, the American public doesn't want to watch a Chinese actor every week." So they changed. Now here's strange stuff. So you know who they came to second? Me.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Wow.
I'm not. This is not spread around too often.
No, I'm honored to know this.
The reason,
because I've read about that.
I couldn't do it because I was under contract at Universal to do a medical series called The Bold Ones.
Right, I remember that.
So
right.
My agent said, "Can you get him out of this because they want him to go to do this show in about this and that and all that kind of stuff." So they said, "No way, he's with us," and so on and so forth.
Wow. Did you have any idea that was the controversy behind why you were called? Did you turn around and call Bruce and say, "Hey, Bruce, they're trying to replace you, man," or did you?
No. Well, I did hear that. I mean, I heard some of it, but when I got to his house and he started to tell me the same thing, I was thinking, should I tell him that I was second in place? I swear, and to this day, I swear, I'm not sure I did or didn't, because I was like stuck about, do I want to say? I don't know. I can't remember if I did or didn't.
Yeah, because you didn't know what his reaction was going to be, and that's a hard spot to be in.
In a little while, he for example, he did a funny thing. He said, "How do you do your sidekick?" And I said, "Well, the way we do it." So I did it, and I just stood in place and did a sidekick a little bit under my shoulder. And he says, "Well, let me show you how I do mine." I said, "Okay." So he picked up a bag, not a bag, it's a shield.
Right.
And he handed it to me and he said, don't worry, you won't go. I said, I know, I'm not worried. So, and he started walking behind me in the room and so on. And then he came before me. He said, "Ready?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And he did a skip and a jump, and he banged that bag and knocked me right back. And I went back, I don't know how far, maybe from there to hit the chair that he had put behind me. And the chair broke because I was in such a... And he came running to me, and I said, "That's okay, I'm not hurt, I'm not hurt." He said, and then you know what he said? "Yeah, but you broke my chair." He said, "Nobody's ever done that before." This was a gag he pulled with a whole bunch of people. And I was the first one that hit it so hard that it broke the chair. Well, we went for lunch that afternoon, and from that time on, everything was going really well, and I knew the film was going to be successful. I believed it was. Before
Did you know it was going to be that successful, like an iconish? Because it's
well, I
mean,
got it from simple observation. By the time this was growing to 73, 72, boy, every place I would go and drive, you go in the Valley, Los Angeles, every 600 feet or some dojo in a little park place and area. And I said, this is becoming really important, because nobody knew what this was in America about karates in 1962.
They had nunchuckles and all that stuff.
And all that
like,
stuff. So that's what led me on to it. I did, however, have a last-minute uncertainty. I read the script, and I read it the first time, and I made a deal with my agent. He made a deal, and so on. But then I reread it just before Christmas, and I said, listen, I don't want to do this. Get me out of it. And he said, you go tell them. And he told my agent, my brave agent. So I went back there, and I said, I called, I can't remember his name now, but anyway, he was one of the producers. And I said, look, this is any good stuntman could do this, and I'm looking for a role, So he said, well, why? Well, what's trouble? What? And I said, well, there's so many scenes that are kind of interesting, but they're not good enough. They're not really. What do you mean? And I said, well, in this scene, at the end of it, he said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's good. So I said, okay, we'll do it. I called my agent and I said, look, I'm going to do it. He said, yeah, do it. He says, it's some cockamamie Chinese actor in Hong Kong, and nobody will ever see it anyway. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it made you a star.
That agent called me back several years later, very, very, I'm sorry that he didn't understand and asked for another $25,000 or $30,000.
Because I got to ask you this question. My mom said a lot more.
Don't ask me how much I made.
I'm okay. When did you figure out that after that you became a sex symbol? Because my mom was talking about you like nobody's business.
A Saxon?
Sex symbol.
Oh, sex symbol.
Yeah, that too. Your last name, but I mean, how many offers were you getting from women?
Sufficient. It was sufficient. Until I got married, and that's when I went and did that film in Hong Kong. Yeah. Shortly after.
And then you went on the $6 Million Man.
I did a couple of those.
Yeah. And then you did a pilot for Gene Roddenberry called Planet Earth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened with
that?
Yeah.
There again is the same story that I was telling you before about ABC.
Right.
Okay. Same story, literally.
Wow.
I met with Roddenberry. He asked me, he says, let's have lunch before. And I said, sure, let's have lunch. So we sat down at a restaurant, and he said, the studio is worried about the humor in the thing. And I said, what are you talking about? The humor is great. That's the best part of the thing.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, but they don't think that humor and sci-fi go together. And so that's what happened. After the show was done, they decided that was it. They were not going to go on any further with it. Yeah.
We also remember that you were possibly going to be in Star Trek Phase 2, the TV show. Was that?
Which?
Star Trek, it was never made. Phase 2 was like the rebirth of Star Trek. But there was some talk about that. And your name came up on a couple of sites and
but it was related to...
Yeah, as after Planet Earth, he might be in... Yeah,
well, actually, they did it again. Nevertheless, I mean, but somebody came in, smart-ass guy, writer, and he went to the executives with a smart way of talking about doing it all different, all different, not the way it was being done by so we did once more. And it never did much after that. That was all.
And then probably, I'm just speculating, maybe J.J. Abrams will call and say, hey, we want you to be in Star Trek 2, my movie. That would be cool for you, I think.
Star Trek, I don't know. I mean, You know, what I do feel about, I'm not sure if it's the great age or the, what's happening now again. I mean, there were, the vampire pictures occasionally and stuff. But what's happened more recently to me is, shakes my head, I mean,
why?
Well, because there's such a spate of films of vampires and blood sucking and all this kind of stuff. It's juvenile. It's juvenile, And so as I'm growing older, it might have been something like, that I thought was, well, this is great.
Is it that we're losing our originality? Because you were in the original Halloween. Not the original
Black
Nightmare
Christmas?
on Elm Street. Excuse me.
Oh,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah,
you played the
Street.
sheriff. Yeah,
Right.
Which the remake was good, but it was a remake.
I didn't see it. I
and-
didn't see the remake.
But are we losing our ability to come up with creative material?
I think so. Because they keep trying to make. Well, look, the movie business is a big, big cash business. So the majority of what the people in charge want is just money. I mean, just things coming in. And I don't know, so it seems sufficient for a while, but I don't think it'll last for young kids to be doing, I mean, they're going to get sick of vampires, I mean, even little kids, don't like to go to Halloween anymore, I don't think.
It's running its course already.
I think so.
Right.
Somebody else wrote some article in the LA Times about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. He's a writer and a director, and he says he thought that this era was fading in that direction. And to me, that's perfectly good that it might. Only because what I'm trying to do is a story about like a guy that's autistic,
right.
and not the stuff in the all around it, but the why and what it means, the human feelings
and the relationships.
The relationships, of course,
that makes a lot.
That's what I'm looking for. I've actually just finished a script yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, Thursday, I guess. Because I got here on Friday, and brought it to a friend of mine. It's what I feel. It's what I think about my life and what people around me.
I overheard you saying you were kind of looking for the project. What would the ideal project be for you?
Well, it to me it wouldn't necessarily. It would not be a lot of slaughtering stuff. It's
so
just,
forget Rob Zombie calling you for a remake of.
He actually did.
He really he did.
He sent me a script, and it was. Good point.
Thank
because
you.
I'll tell you what it was.
He's a good movie maker, actually.
I believe he is, but it was he wanted just a day cameo with me. It was a thing I never saw, but I read the part of the script. But about all sort of rednecks in the woods or something, were going around just killing people because they were enjoying it.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
And they probably. It sounded like it might have been a scene in Halloween 2 because there were some rednecks that were doing that, and Michael Myers in Halloween 2 got the best of them. Because I just saw it very recently. So,
no, but the one that the zombie.
Zombie. Okay, yeah, that was because Zombie had done that. That was Zombie's film.
It was, but when he sent it to me, he just wanted me to play a thing, and I said, no, I don't want to.
He wanted you to play a redneck?
No.
Oh,
but
good.
Something. There was something in there. I think he just wanted to stick in somebody's face, like mine.
He wanted to have a pop culture icon. Is what he wanted.
Perhaps that was it.
You're known.
It may be. Yeah. It may be. I can't remember, except that I didn't think I didn't like the film. I didn't like people going around just jovially chopping off heads.
Right.
And what was in it for me? I didn't see anything. What I wanted to play, what I wanted to involve myself for, with what I understand about me and my life and others that I think are similar. That's it. Yeah. It's that kind of a story I'm looking for.
It's been an honor to talk to you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Much appreciated. Thank you.